The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
Welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel. Your favorites and mine, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. Today we will be answering listener emails, and we have a question from Angelo, who lives in the Bronx, New York. And Angelo writes, "Meet the Mets, beat the Mets, everybody come out and watch the Mets collapse." Sorry, I can't sing. As you might have noticed, I'm a Yankees fan. But I wanted to know from the panel's two Mets fans. I'm also a Mets fan, even though I know nothing about baseball, so make that free, Mets fans. How you feel about the epic collapse? Who should be blamed? Who should go? And who should stay? Alonzo has already opted out. Should they try to resign him? I'd love to hear what Scott and Mark, if they were the Mets GM, would do to make their astronomical payroll worth it in 2026. Mark and Scott, this is all on you.
So this is Angelo from the Bronx. Thanks very much
from the Bronx. Go figures from the Bronx.
You know this person, Mark, or is this?
I do not. Well,
Okay.
and to make it very clear, while the Mets were losing the last game and were being booted up, Scott and I were texting back and forth over this. And after the game wasn't even over with, but I was already getting emails about the collapse of the Mets. So, what do you think, Scott?
I think Angelo. Did you watch the game last night when the Yankees had bases loaded with no outs in the bottom of the ninth? And didn't get a run across and lost the game to the Red Sox? They'll probably be eliminated in about 6 hours from now. It's 3:00 on Wednesday Eastern time. They'll be 6 hours from now. The Yankees will be home with the Mets, and they could all go golfing together. All right, so give me a break.
That's a kid from Brooklyn and giving it to the kid from the Bronx.
And I also want to point out that in May, I don't remember exactly when it was. In May, I went up to Boston with a fellow Met fan friend. We went to Fenway. At that time, Boston was awful. They were talking about trading this guy and that guy, and it was just a terrible year, and they were awful. The Mets were riding high. I don't know what the hell I said in Fenway Park, but somehow or another, the fortunes of those two teams flipped around, and the Mets haven't been good since. And the Red Sox went on a tear and ended up making the playoffs, and they're about to eliminate the Yankees. This is what I would do about the Mets' astronomical payroll. I would double it. I think Steve Cohen could handle it. And you know what? I mean, we drew a lot of people to the stadium. I was there a lot. I was there once. I couldn't believe how crowded it was. It looked like Central Park during the Simon and Garfunkel concert back in the day. I mean, it was mobbed, and it was it was a really good atmosphere at that time. But the team itself was always flat. And I'm not sure why. There was no grimace this year. There was no OMG this year. Winker was out. If you remember when Winker came into 2024, he had been a Mets fan's beat noir. I mean, everybody hated him. And all of a sudden he became a fan favorite because he did the same stuff to the other teams that he had been doing to us when he was on the Nationals or wherever. So, we miss those guys. You need those guys. And Soto, those numbers speak for themselves. But Soto himself is not a leader type. He does not play with emotion. He reminds me a lot of Beltran, who never played with any kind of emotion. He's like Beltran with talent. And he's not the guy that you look to for inspiration. And a guy who's going to stir up the team. He doesn't always hit with runners in scoring position. The Mets hit into a lot of double plays with runners in scoring position. They didn't have that oomph to it. And I'll tell you something. When we were watching this elimination game on Sunday, it went down easy. They went down very, very easy. It was like an old man easing himself into a warm tub, because you knew once it got to the eighth inning, They came back once the entire season, Friday night before when they were down in the eighth inning. And the trend line was not favorable. And it was just a matter of watching it happen. It seemed inevitable that they were not gonna, and that the Reds were gonna lose. The Mets had every opportunity in the world to get into the postseason, and they were gonna blow it on their own. And they did. And I'm a Met fan. I've been through it before. I watched Kenny Rogers walk in the go-ahead run against the Atlanta Braves. I watched Beltran keep the bat on his shoulder against Wainwright and the St. Louis Cardinals. I've suffered enough that this was an easy suffering. And my only takeaway is they got three really good young pitchers who will hopefully be 1, 2s, and 3s next year. And my only ask is, Mr. Cohn, if you don't mind, re-sign Pete and get Edwin Diaz back. Those two pieces. The rest of it, figure it out along the way. Yes, you need a little bit more, but you really could use a number one pitcher. You could use a Tarek Skubal. You could use a Garrett Crochet. You could use one of those guys. And if they're out there, go ahead, please, and get them. But the team is built to last, and I think that we're going to be good for a long time.
Gosh, there's so many things that you can. When you ask who to blame, and I did note that they're saying that Mendoza's coming back next year.
Yeah.
They're bringing him back. The rest of the staff, they're really not sure. That's still up in the air. A lot of blame has been placed on Jeremy Hefner, the pitching coach, which I don't think is overly fair. And I'll kind of give it why. So who should go and who to stay? So to answer your question, Angelo, I was looking at the roster here. So I always start with pitching because I was a pitcher back in the day. And I look at, and the thing that struck me was looking at the people that were on the injured list that weren't in the beginning when they were doing so well. Danny Young, Drew Smith, Daniel Nunez, Montas, Minter. Now they've lost Tyler McGill for an entire year. They're not going to have him back. Kranick, Canning. I think Kranick, Canning, and Minter, when they went on the disabled list, I think that hurt them a lot because they were great arms. Hensley did not work out very well for them at all. Now Reed Garrett, who knows when he's going to be back. So you look at some of the relievers, and again, they've got to go deeper. Their starters have got to go a lot deeper. Kodai Senga was not what they thought. I do believe that Jonah Tong should go back to the minors and get a little bit more work. I think McLean is the real deal. I truly do think that McLean is the real deal, and I think that other kid that they've got that was so good, Sproat. I think he's the real deal, and I think that you can build around those. You probably got to let go of Stanek. Stanek is I don't know what's up with Stanek, but he's not consistent. Soto, I was kind of impressed with Soto to a point. I think Soto was a pretty good pickup. But Tyler Rogers, like him. Brooks Raley, like him. Peterson, okay. But he's more of a fourth or fifth starter. He should not be your main guy. Minaya, if you're going to do that tag teaming with Minaya and Clay Holmes, you're going to do that tag team up between him and Clay Holmes. I think that works. I think they overworked Clay Holmes. He was really good in the beginning, but he was a relief pitcher his entire career, and I don't think he adjusted to it well. But I think if you put Shamanaya and you put him together, I think you can there's your fifth starter right there. You're going to take up 2 spots, but there's your fifth starter. And you might get 6, 7 innings out of that pair combined, which would be great. But I think you've got to get your relief pitchers have got to get better. I would let go of Helsley. I don't know what the heck. I don't know what happened to him. Brazoban, keep him, no doubt. But I think that really one of the turning points was all the injuries that the relief pitching staff faced. And again, when you look at their infield, I would say Ronnie Marciano, Marcio, or whatever. Yeah, that kid I'd send him back to the minors. He's not ready. He is absolutely not ready. Yeah, re-sign Pete if you can at a reasonable amount, because
It's not going to be a reasonable amount.
well,
And
I
it's
mean, a
not going to be a
reasonable amount. Yeah,
reasonable
but he's
amount of
not. Yeah,
years.
but Scott,
It's
he's
not going to
not going to
be.
be. He's not going to be. He's not going to be Juan Soto or the numbers of Francisco Lindor or Juan Soto. He's not going to get that kind of money. It's just not going to happen. Cedric Mullins, I can't even figure out what you're doing. Get rid of him. He was a total bust. You've got to get that center fielder. You've got to come up with that center fielder that you can trust. And yeah, I agree with Scott. The entire team is flat. A lot of talent, no personality. None. They have no personality. And you look at the teams that are successful, there's always personality. Jose Iglesias last year with the OMG. Jesse Winker, and I totally agree. I don't care if you keep him just for entertainment and for that spark. Soto is not the guy. He's the workman. He's very workman. He goes out, he does his thing, but he's not going to be the guy to spark anything. Pete can. I think Pete can does pretty good with that, and I think that Francisco Lindor does pretty good with that. But you've got to get a personality to the team. And if somebody was to ask me what was the personality of this team back in the 60s and 70s, we always looked at Ed Kranepool. He wasn't the greatest player of the bunch. We always looked at Tug McGraw. We always looked at, there was a personality there that gave the team a personality that basically carried it. And they just didn't have it, and they've got to get it. That would be my thought there. And yeah, I would agree with Scott. How come you guys didn't score in the ninth inning when you had the damn bases loaded to beat out poor little Boston? But obviously not. I don't think any of you are going to beat Toronto anyway, so it doesn't matter. So it's for me, I'm going to make the prediction: Toronto against Los Angeles.
Okay. Well, I'm not going that far yet, but Vlad Guerrero, who I believe is the same exact age as Pete, signed a 14-year, $500 million contract with the Blue Jays. That's the kind of contract that I think Pete's going to have to get, and it's sick, and it's going to be useless for a good deal of it. But Steve, we really filled that stadium for you this year. We really came out, and those beers are expensive. Yeah, the hot dogs. And look, when you build a casino there, as you plan to do, we're going to go to the casino before and after the game, and you're going to make a fortune off of that. So give the people what they want, please, and bring Pete back. Don't let Pete go to the Yankees. It's always going to be the money. Don't let anybody fool you about he wants to win, he's going to go to the Yankees. Bullshit. He's going to go where he gets the most money, and that's going to be the Mets, right, Steve? Yes, say yes. And Diaz too. Bring Diaz back. He was great especially down the stretch. He was just lights out, and he's so much fun to watch on the mound. He's the kind of guy that they really need. But yeah, they need another not goofball. You know what remember John McCarthy? I remember. You don't know. We were not alive for John McCarthy. I think it was John McCarthy who was the Yankees manager and the Giants manager way back in the day.
Oh yeah,
in the 1920s, in the 1920s before we were born.
Yeah, just before we were born. Believe it or not.
He once said, you gotta have these guys. You gotta have hitters. You gotta have pitchers, and you need an Irish. And he, of course, was Irish. He said you gotta have, and by that he meant somebody who had like the fiery personality, or the punch you in the face like Ray Knight, did in the 86, right? Like Bud Harrelson did in 73. You need that kind of fiery personality. The Yankees had it. Paul O'Neill. I remember Paul O'Neill swinging and missing, and Tim McCarver was doing the games. I'm guessing it was a World Series. He said, for Paul O'Neill, every at bat is Armageddon. You need a guy like that. You need a guy who's that fired up. And the Mets didn't have that guy. And I don't think it's Pete. I know it's not Soto.
No, it's not Pete.
And Lindor is like a loving guy. He's not a fiery guy. McNeil is not that guy. Vientos is still too young. Beatty is still too young. I'm assuming both those guys. Ronnie Mauricio is not that guy again. The Hispanic guys are
and
cooler.
actually he should go back to the minors, Mauricio.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean,
And it can't be a pitcher.
I
It's
think
got to be an everyday player.
one of those two guys, Vientos and Mauricio, will be traded. I'm sure at some. They will trade them because they're good, but they're not like over the top good. And a young team could really use them and give up some Multicaca that you need to bring over here. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it was a wild year. It was a frustrating year. This is not a team that I love. I did not fall in love with the Mets this year.
No.
This version of the Mets, the way I did last year, and the way I have in the past. This was a hard team to love. And again, it's a lot of it's because they didn't come back. They never came back. When they were down, they stayed down. They just laid down, and they didn't have that fiery personality to spark comebacks, and that's what makes a great team.
Yep. And just a quick thing, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. you were speaking about, he's actually 4 years younger than Pete Alonso. He's only 26. So that's why I don't think Pete will get that kind of money because they're not going to pay him till he's 40. I mean, they're just not going to do that. So I don't know if Pete could get that kind of money. Maybe 5 years, 250,000, maybe, if they're worth. But I agree with you. This was not a team. In the beginning of the year, I actually thought about getting this year's Stratomatic cards. And after the year was over with, I said, no, I'm not going to waste the money on that because I always want to have a decent. I've only got 86 and 69. Those are the only ones I've got of the Mets teams.
So I said, they made those. Yeah.
I was ready to go. So Stratomatic, I'm sorry. You'll get my $65 maybe next year, but it sure as hell ain't going to be based on this team. They've got to get a personality. And that personality's got to be somebody that's playing every single day. And I don't think that their young catcher is the guy. I don't think he's the guy either. Alvarez, good player. I like Torrens better, to be honest with you. He doesn't have the power, but he's a lot better catcher as far as defensive is concerned. Boy, that kid can throw out everybody. So I think that you need to maybe it is an Irishman. I don't know, but you got to get some personality on that team to have us to have a reason to fall in love with them, other than the fact that they're good. And to me, they were just flat. So good luck to you, Angelo, in the playoffs. Of course, I agree with Scott. You'll probably be down and out after tonight. Hopefully, you'll write back and tell us your woes of the New York Yankees after they get eliminated by the not very good Boston Red Sox. So just let us know what you think.
And just for the record, today is October 1st. We didn't mention the date. I know you're saying like 6 hours from now, and you gave the time, but I don't think anybody gave the date.
Well, I think Angelo knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, we think Angelo knows.
All right. Well, I probably wouldn't if I were listening. But anyway, thank you, Angelo, for the question.
It's October 1st, otherwise known as Elimination Day.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
I'll see.
Matter of fact, this is the fourth one we've recorded. I'm going to be putting this up for tomorrow. This is the one that gets up for tomorrow. Just to taunt Angelo just a little bit.
Okay, Angelo. So you're going to be properly taunted another time, just like Monty Python, the Holy Grail. I'll taunt you again. Yep, exactly. Right. So we thank you for listening, and thank you for your question, and thank you to everyone for listening. And if you are not yet subscribed on the platform of your choice, please do so. Subscribing is free. And we do look forward to seeing you again next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening!